home in one piece. But there's been absolutely no evidence at all presented to show there is a need to introduce a lower speed limit on the Eastern Peninsula roads. The only relevant statement in the council documents says it would align with other recent changes. Well, that's a lame and I think a rather pathetic way to be making policy. And frankly, the ratepayers deserve better. We want to see more common sense and professionalism coming from local government. So the key objective is that drivers should be taught and encouraged and reminded to drive to the conditions. Instituting a system of excessive speed limit changes and reducing and promoting speed limits that are unrealistic does not encourage driving to the conditions. For some, it simply leads to the idea that the stated limits are more important than common sense. For others, and where the limits simply look silly, it leads to them being ignored. All this can become both confusing and distracting, and in practice that can detract from road safety. The lessons about driving to the conditions gets ignored. Let's talk about some of these roads, and I live down one of them, so I know about this. Narrow, winding, single lane, blind corners. What the users want is for people to focus on only one thing when they're driving down those roads. You focus on the next corner, because there may be a car coming around that, or it might be a cattle truck, and you're going to have to stop because the road is not wide enough to pass. You don't go looking at the speedometer, you don't get distracted by speed signs, you stay focused, and that's the way to get down there safely. The existing limit is 100 kilometres an hour. Well, of course people don't drive at that speed. It would be ridiculous. But the speed limit is not signposted, and simply because of that, it is not a problem. There are no speed signs, common sense prevails, and normal driving skills lead to people driving to the conditions. But if you start putting up 60 kilometre an hour signs, apart from the distraction, the risk is that some people will start to think that it might just be possible to drive at that speed. And they're wrong. There's hardly anywhere on those roads you're proposing 60 kilometres an hour that would actually be a safe speed. Common sense is out the window. So, and we're also very concerned about the visual pollution aspect. Unnecessary speed limits, excessive number of changes in speed limits, more signs, they appear like mushrooms around the place. The main impact is visual pollution and landscape clutter. Out there on the end of the peninsula, we value the landscape we've got. We've got that slightly wild, rugged landscape. You know, there's a wild side thing going on. You know, we get value out of that. It gets promoted. You know, the appeal of the area is the unspoilt views of dramatic landscapes, and we don't want them degraded by intrusive and unnecessary speed signs. You know, it's like having a little something here and there to remind yourself all the time that Nanny State is still watching you. And then there's the dumbing down aspect. What do we want? A population of confident and capable people that can drive properly, you know, people that can think for themselves. And then maybe the council could actually focus on delivering core services. That would be good. Or do we want the council being part of the Nanny State Act, progressively dumbing down the population with more and more regulation? We certainly don't want it. It's pretty clear what we want. We want unspoilt landscapes and competent drivers. So, in summary, the proposal to lower these speeds to 60 kilometres an hour on this large number of rural roads will not achieve any meaningful benefit in terms of road safety. That's the concerted opinion of the people that live there and drive those roads. Safe speeds are already determined by the nature of the roads, and motorists already travel at speeds well below the existing speed limits. But there will be a long-term negative effect on road safety as drivers lose sight of the fact that they must always drive to the conditions. And there's a real risk that 60 will look like it might just about be a reasonable speed in places where it is not. And then we have the visual pollution and the degradation of our wildlife, wildside landscapes. So we don't want to be part of this unnecessary and flawed scheme, and we would like you to delete the Eastern Bay's proposal out of this entire thing. Thank you.
Right, perfectly timed. Thank you very much for a really clear submission. Thanks for coming in.